So glad you could be with us. We're going to have a great 60 minutes of sports programming again tonight with some very special guests. And let's get right to the introductions. Leading off the program after a record-setting season for many different reasons, both individuals and team-wise, a tremendous season for the Muhlenberg football team. We're very proud to welcome in the head coach of the Mules, Nate Milne, and we're joined for our first segment by Joseph O'Hagan and Mickey Kober. Gentlemen, thanks so much for coming in, and congratulations on an awesome season just wrapped up a few weeks ago.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here, and we're excited to represent Muhlenberg College and our football program and everybody at the athletics department.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the team numbers in a minute in terms of wins and losses and the margin of victory. But first of all, especially with the defensive guys here, I mean, this is one of the best defenses in the country, no doubt. You guys, I know, are very proud of it. Usually when we have two offensive and two defensive players, I ask who's first, and there's a pretty good argument that goes on, and they might have fist fight or arm wrestle or whatever. This time it was, you know what, we got to have the defensive guys on first because of the outstanding job they did. I guess that starts with you and your coaching staff, and what a great job your players did executing this year too.
For sure, our coaching staff does a wonderful job. Our defensive coordinator, Corey David, who's been with us for the last 3 years, and ever since I came on board as the head football coach, has done a wonderful job. Our players work really, really hard on that side of the ball. We go back and forth against one another on a daily basis with some of our best players going against each other, and that's really why I think our team is able to perform at the level they are is the way that we practice on a daily basis.
Mickey, you were at linebacker too, and that's always key with a great defense. I mean, usually you can talk about the guys up front, you can talk about the speed you have in the secondary, but usually a great defense, you have some really special people at the linebacking core. Could you talk about your unit individually?
I think it's pretty special playing linebacker for Muhlenberg. I'm proud to be a Muhlenberg linebacker, but like you said, I mean, the big guys up front eat up all the blocks and they allow us to run free, and then the speedy guys I got behind me, like Joe and some other guys, they're locked down in man coverage, so we make teams one-dimensional and kind of force them to run the ball or pass the ball and then just take advantage of what we're strong at. So.
Yeah. And Joe, of course, you were all over the place. In the secondary, you also did work at punting, so maybe you could talk about your efforts on two of the three aspects of football.
Yeah, my freshman and sophomore year and a little junior year, I did some of the punting, and I just tried to do whatever I can to help the team in any spot that we needed. I remember Coach Donnelly, my freshman year, asked if anyone had punting experience, and he kind of helped me out, and I was able to help the team on both defense and special teams.
Okay.
Was there a moment when you thought, hey, we got something special here. We have a really good football team. Was it week one? Was it the first day of practice, or was it like a special game during the middle of the season?
For me, it goes back to Mount Union, that quarterfinal game last year where it's a one-score game going into halftime. And I'm looking at some of these guys that I'm sitting next to, and I'm like, we're pretty good, guys. We can do this thing. If we can compete with the Mount Unions of the world, in Division III football, we could take anybody. And then just the leadership I knew that was going into that senior year with some of my fellow classmates and a lot of the younger guys who listen really well and don't have a problem saying the unpopular opinion sometimes when it needs to be said. I knew that's a pretty good formula for success.
And we knew coming off our junior year, we knew we had a bunch of really talented players. We knew if we put the time in over the summer, just like everyone did, we knew we could have a season like this.
Usually a league prepares you. I mean, do you feel like your league got you ready for the postseason run?
100%. I think Susquehanna, Johns Hopkins are two of the best teams in the whole country, and getting to play them 2 times a year. Hopkins was in the Final Four last year. I think that speaks like a big credit to our conference, just how well balanced it is.
And I did cover Muhlenberg at one time in my career. In fact, from '93 to like '01, I was either.
Don't date yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty darn old.
He's 39. He's 39.
But I did cover either Raven or Muhlenberg for most of that era, from '93 to '01, and I did see a lot of good football. But you guys show that it doesn't matter what level you're at, and I'm sure you guys feel like some of you guys could have played at a higher level. But you're having fun, you're playing the game you love, and you're playing darn good football. And I'm sure you feel like, hey, not only are you representing Muhlenberg, but around here you're kind of representing Division III too a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like at Muhlenberg you get a great balance of great social life, great academics and great football, and I feel like you really can't get it any better than that.
And I mean, for the North Central game specifically, just seeing the Lehigh Valley support. I mean, I'm from Philadelphia, and football is pretty big there, but the stage that kind of, I think one of the high school bands played on our sideline, and just everybody coming out and supporting us in the Lehigh Valley, that was something really special because, yes, we were representing ourselves, yes, we were representing Muhlenberg, but to a greater extent, the Lehigh Valley and the great sports tradition here.
Well, I personally, as somebody who gets, all due respect, gets a little tired of the Eagles and Penn State.
Fine with me.
and I do cover Lehigh, but I mean, even they get overshadowed. I was just happy that Muhlenberg was in the news. I was thrilled because I used to cover Division III football and loved it. And so for you to get that stage and get that moment, and Nate, talk about that and how good it felt to get the exposure for the program.
It really did. I thought it was great for our entire campus community as well. We started the football season before the academic year began, and then we played our last game when the academic year was over. And so we had students stay on campus that didn't need to be there. They could have gone home, and they chose to stay to watch these young men perform on the football field. And so for them to get the recognition, our football team and our players, because these guys work so tremendously hard in the classroom and on the football field. And the young man coming on the next segment, Max Kirin, got a 4.0 last semester, and he played football every single week during that semester. And so it's really an accomplishment for these young men who made a commitment 3 or 4 years ago to come here, knowing that Muhlenberg is one of the best academic schools in the country, and they're not going to cut them any slack in the classroom. And sometimes I think our professors are harder on our football players sometimes because they know that's how to motivate them. You know, it's not, hey, good job, Joe. It's can you give me more? And so everybody knows that and recognizes that. And so for these guys to perform the way they did for 14 consecutive weeks was tremendously special.
And there was a buzz. I got to tell you, that's where my father was, at the Phoebe home in West Allentown, and I was eating at restaurants, and I was right by that campus during that whole period, and there was a lot of excitement. I was hearing from people, including a Hall of Fame writer named Jack McCallum, who was a Muhlenberg grad, and he says, hey, I would like to do something on this team. That's the kind of buzz and the excitement you guys were creating.
It was awesome. Yeah. It really was awesome.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mickey, I was looking up, you had some great numbers throughout your career, but someone said you were hurt last year. So what was that like? And I mean, if you were hurt and you put up those numbers, that certainly wasn't easy to play through, but how'd you battle through that?
Yeah, going into my junior year, I think it was like a week before camp, I found out that I had like a couple tears in my shoulder. And the doctor was like, when are we setting this thing up? And I was like, I'll see you in 3 to 4 months. And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I have a season to play, and then we can get it done. But I credit a lot of my success this year to actually the guy next to me. He tore his Achilles in our first round of our playoffs, and I got my shoulder cut up. And just driving each other to like 6 a.m. PT appointments, lifting, keeping each other motivated. He had a lower body injury, so doing upper body stuff. I had upper body injury, so doing lower body stuff. And just playing with each other's confidence and emotion, being a safety and a linebacker. I think it was a pretty cool experience, but I just, if you're going to do something, do it right and come back the strongest you can.
Yeah. And Joe, you in high school you played multiple sports too, and I know that's a whole big debate now at the high school level. What's the best? And maybe Coach, you can talk about your preference too, as far as athletes that play multiple sports, or teams sometimes or coaches will say just focus on one sport. But you were a standout in multiple sports. Did that versatility help you then when you got to the college level? Because as we said, you did some punting, and your speed obviously helped you at the college level.
Yeah, I think playing multiple sports just makes you more of a well-rounded athlete rather than a one-trick pony. You got guys who play basketball, track, and I feel like that really helped me just as an overall athlete, just going into college. As you see, a lot of kids do one sport at such a young age. I feel like you get burnt out of certain things. You want to have a new season, have a new coach in your ear rather than the same thing over and over again.
For us, when we look at that, one of the things we evaluate, and we think that makes a person a little bit more competitive. And just as Joe mentioned, it does make you a little bit more coachable, because you're going to step into at the collegiate level somebody that you really haven't built a relationship with. These young men, we've been through a lot over the last 4 years, and so they're obviously really comfortable with me. But when they were there 4 years ago, you know, we didn't know each other from Adam. And so when you see somebody who's done multiple things, you know that they're going to be comfortable accepting coaching, because the football coach is different from the basketball coach, and Mickey wrestled is different from the wrestling coach, and then if you were in track and field or another sport. And so you trust those individuals maybe a little bit more to be welcomed into your college football program than somebody who's just been driven by a strength coach or something for a number of time.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at your schedule, too. And not only the impressive string of victories, 13 wins in a row. Their last loss came in the national semifinal, which is the result of that nice trophy that they were nice enough to bring and we have on center stage today. But look at the margins of victories. I mean, the offense put up points, but the defense was just outstanding. I think the average was under 10 points per game that you allowed. 8 points allowed in 3 postseason wins, including a couple shutouts to some pretty good opponents. As you're looking at the schedule, you're looking at the teams you played, and you look at the margins of victories. What kind of jumps out at you? And you know, obviously it was a good game plan again, and the kids kind of executed on both sides of the ball. What
jumps out to me is that we had really talented players. You know, as every coach will come in and to attest to, you have good teams when you have really good players, and so that's a testament to these guys. And then that our players wanted to perform the entire game. You see many times you'll have your young players come in at the end of a game when you're up 42-0, and maybe they give up a couple of scores because they're overmatched, or somebody else is, when are they going to take their starters out? And so if we left these gentlemen in for the entire duration, they wanted to play, and they really enjoyed it. And then when we put our backups in maybe at the end of a big game, they wanted to show that they were equally as talented. And we talk about our standard of play is at an elite level all of the time. And so those guys did. I remember, I think it was our last regular season game of the year. And again, we're up by a couple of points. And one of our freshman tailback gets in the game and fumbles on his first carry. And you can see everybody just putting another tailback in the game, and we're taking him off the field because it doesn't matter the score. It's about us playing well. And I think these guys would attest to that. It's all about what we're going to do and how we can perform at our best. Yeah.
I think something that jumps out to me with all those scores is just how much fun we had as a team. Both sides of the ball, we were just clicking on all cylinders throughout the whole season. I feel like as a team, I never had more fun playing a sport with a bunch of my friends, and I feel like it just shows how great we really were together as a team.
And I think we played our best defense when our offense dominated time of possession. We definitely play off each other's emotion. Coming off a big sack or a forced fumble or a turn or whatever it may be, I know the offense would always take a shot. And it was just always fun getting the ball back to them and watching them play and dominate time of possession.
Yep. As far as what you're looking to do, could you talk about your majors and what you're looking to do after this year?
We're both finance majors, and we're trying to get into the finance field. Not really sure exactly what I want to do with that yet, but I'm kind of searching for a job now. Fun's over, so gotta get a real job.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat as Joe. I like the wealth management aspects of stuff, so I'm talking to bigger firms and kind of just what football's taught me, start at the bottom and make jumps and work hard. So
they're both going to be the next Wolf of Wall Street. Just get your money in now, and you guys will be good to go. They'll take care of you.
Well, speaking of marketing, how about the recruiting end of it? Did this kind of run? Sometimes you go on a long run and it kind of affects recruiting a little bit. You can't get out, but you'll take it any day of the week. I'm sure. Yeah. Any season you love to play into December, right?
No doubt. It certainly, we've seen an increase in our interest level, and it'll certainly be something that we can utilize moving forward as well into the summer months. We were the #4 team in the country for 365 days, right, until somebody knocks us off again. So we'll sell it and we'll use it for as long as we can, and hopefully that some prospects will see we have a great education at Muhlenberg first and foremost. We have some good players and some good coaches, and they'll want to come play for us. It certainly did affect us. us, and I've said this to a number of coaches. We just got back from Nashville from our convention, and it's when you get that far into the season, you have to prepare as a coach to win, but you also have to prepare to lose. We have to have our recruiting cars ready. We have to have some hotels and things like that set up. And so you're really doing sometimes twice as much work as you do. But we've certainly seen an increase, and hopefully it'll pay off a couple of years from now as well.
All right, well, Joe and Mickey, thanks so much for your time. Congratulations on a great season. We'll let the offense talk for a few minutes after this timeout. But thanks so much, and congratulations again on a great season and a great career at Muhlenberg.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with more Muhlenberg football talk right after this timeout. Welcome back to Sports Talk. Joining Keith Groller and myself, members of the Muhlenberg football team after historic 2019 campaign. Nate Milne, the head coach, and we're joined by two of the key offensive weapons, Mike Hnatkowsky, the quarterback, and Max Kirin. Was he your ace wide receiver or 1A, or I don't know how you categorize that, but Max and...
Put him on the spot, right?
Mike, thanks for coming in. Yeah. And I want to give you guys credit, because when we were having that discussion, we said, no, we want to give the defense their due first. So that was nice of you guys. And Mike, we were just talking before we came on. You were ranked 3rd in the country in a number of offensive categories. I said, what was that like? He's like, I don't know.
I do not know.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a great year for you. But obviously, it was a special year with, you know, the receivers, your offensive line guys up front. Really, it was a special unit for you this year.
Yeah, absolutely. They make it really easy for me. You know, Coach Milne calls the plays and dials it up, as he likes to say, and we like to tell and joke around. But our offensive line was unbelievable this year. I didn't get touched a lot, let alone sacked. Our running backs are just really tough-nosed, downhill runners, and then we have a lot of playmakers. You know, Max is one of the best players in the country. Ryan Curtis is the best tight end in the country. And then a lot of other skill guys, and again, they just make my job really easy. Yeah.
You took over as a freshman, right? You got playing time as a freshman too.
Yes.
So did that help you? Was there some learning curves that went on early on, and was it tough? But did it pay off in the long run?
I think so far, you know, I've just been really fortunate. Freshman year, you know, you get to learn a lot, and then that playoff run as a sophomore, you know, I didn't think I played really well. I turned the ball over a lot, and I think that really propelled me to work harder in the offseason and helped me this year as well.
And Max, you're from the DMV area, which RCN has seen down there too. I know basketball, we've done some basketball games down there. They play at a high level, but maybe you could talk about the level of play on the football side too. No.
Yeah, they love the football down there in Maryland, just as much of, you know, as they love it up here in the Lehigh Valley. A bunch of great turnout at all my high school games, and, you know, great programs down there like Damascus, a bunch of great programs. So, you know, coming from Maryland, not a lot of kids from Maryland on the Muhlenberg football team, but, you know, we're a couple of us are still good contributors. So. Yeah.
I think that's a great thing about the program. You have players from not only all over the country, but you also have some Lehigh Valley players, and that draws an interest from a local level. And I know I check and see how those guys are doing to see how they advance to the next level. But it's also fun, I guess, for you to kind of mesh local talent and people from all over the country.
It really is. It's something that's, I think, unique to coaching at the collegiate level in general. You see young men like Mike and Max and Mickey and Joe, and they're from 3 different areas, and they're all cut from the same cloth. They're really great students, and so Muhlenberg will travel far and wide wherever we can find great students. And then we're going to look for the very best football players after that. We need to know that these guys can get it done in the classroom. But it's really unique to watch a team grow from individuals from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different states, different programs, different cultures, and then when they get here, they realize that they have more in common than they think. And so for these young men are just 2 of our wonderful products. Max, I'll get some more guys from Maryland. All right, for your brother, you know, and we got to work that out. Max's brother is a very, very good football player for us as well.
Yeah. Could you talk about the relationship between you and your brother too? Because I read that you guys were pretty competitive and you kind of helped each other on. You actually helped, I think, on a couple of plays too. Wasn't there a big play that you both combined on?
A couple of times over the course of the season, you know, he'd make a play on the defensive side of the ball, get us the ball, and then, you know, I'd to end up scoring a touchdown on the other end of the possession. So, you know, I always got to give credit to him, you know, giving me the opportunity to go down and score, taking the ball away. But, you know, we're really like the same kind of person. So when I chose Muhlenberg here, it turned out to be a great fit for me. I knew it right away. I didn't really push him to, you know, make a choice on, you know, come to Muhlenberg, you know, you're going to love it. I let him, you know, kind of do the same thing I went through in terms of recruiting. But, you know, he ended up on the same school as me, and he chose Muhlenberg, and he loved it just as much.
Yep. I want to talk about the offense, and when you have the defense that you had, I think you can relax a little bit more, knowing that, you know, there's certain games now in this high-speed era of football where I call it fast break football, where, you know, rushing and we're not huddling and we're spreading and doing all this stuff. And I feel that sometimes in games, whether it's high school, college, or pro, we see offenses feel like they have to score every possession. With you guys, I felt like with your defense, you know you were going to get stops, and that probably took a lot of pressure off you. You could still execute, but you didn't feel like, hey, we have to score every time we have the football. Is that true with this defensive unit you had?
Absolutely, absolutely. And on top of that, you know, another great thing about having a good defense, they give us a bunch of short fields. You know, we don't have to do anything spectacular, go drive 90 yards every drive. We get the short fields every drive, and we focus on taking care of the ball. If we take care of the ball, you know, with our defense and the short fields they give us, there's not many teams that are going to be able to stop us.
Well, and I just wanted to get your emotions when it did come to an end. Yeah, you know, a lot of excitement. Obviously, you ran into a very good football team that went on, I believe, to win the national championship, and I think pretty convincingly the next week. So, you know, I think you take some good pride in knowing that you were probably the second best team in the country. But what was all three of you? What was that emotion when you walked off the field that I believe it's December 14th? I
think these guys can answer for themselves. For me, and I've said this a couple of times, there were mixed emotions for sure. We were happy to make the run, but when seniors like Max Kirin graduate, you're sad. And we're happy that it happened, that I had 4 years with Max to make our relationship great. But you're certainly sad that it's over, because I want Max to practice again, just like I'm sure he wants to practice again and play again. And then there was, you know, a sense of pride that you have in there. So you really go through a mixed emotions. And then I think we were all probably a little bit angry that we didn't play our best that day. You know, there's something probably would have been a little bit more satisfied had we played well that day.
Yeah, just like Coach Milne was saying, you know, mixed emotions for sure. Being what turned out to be my last game, you know, as a football player, you know, you're definitely sad that it's over, but you know, you can't help but, you know, look back on the great season you had and the great 4 years you had with a great program and a great bunch of guys, you know, and thinking back, you know, I wouldn't trade it for anything. But of course, you're always sad that, you know, it didn't turn out that we got the win. But
yeah, and for me, I think it happened so fast. You know, we were playing, school was over, so we were just practicing, and it just kind of became routine that we were going to show up Monday morning and run and lift. And you know, when it's over, as Coach said, you know, I was lucky enough to play with these seniors for the last 3 years, and you know, we became really close friends and best friends, and you know, I think that's why we were pretty successful. But yeah, it happened really fast.
Do you take satisfaction in knowing you put this program? It was a very successful program. Coach Donnelly did a fantastic job. But now it's at that level now where you play Mount Union one year, you go to the semifinals the next year. As you leave here, you feel like, boy, we did all we could, short of a national championship, to put this program at the highest level it's ever been at.
Yeah, you know, Coach Donnelly, when I was coming here, was recruiting myself, and you know, Muhlenberg has always been a powerhouse. For us, I think we'll realize it more, as Coach always says, 10 years down the line. But for us, yeah, it's great. For me, you know, it's back to work and trying to take it to the next step. For Max and those guys, I'm sure they're going to talk about it for the next 10 to 15 years. But yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yep. And we were talking before we came on, and this was more of a scheduling issue, but you played a game on Friday night, and we're seeing other schools play on Thursday and different nights. But is that something, I know there's advantages to doing that in terms of scheduling, and you get different people to come out on a Friday night game. Could you talk about that decision? And I guess it's something that's going to continue next year.
Yeah, so when 2 years ago, we didn't even have a bye week, and that was crazy. And so this year we had the bye week and knew that it could propel us forward to play on a Friday night. It would give these guys a little bit of extra rest following or preceding the next week. We want to play on Saturday afternoons. I think Friday nights are sacred for high school football, but ultimately we have to put our best foot forward. So if that means playing one Friday night game a year after a bye week, whenever that comes, we'll continue to look into that stuff. And again, every other year we'll be at home. So next year we'll be on the road for a Friday night, and then haven't looked at the schedule yet for 2021.
And I just want to say you have done a marvelous job. And Coach, it's not an easy, no matter what the circumstances would have been, it was not going to be an easy situation to follow. An iconic figure, a legendary figure like Mike Donnelly. But Coach Milne, you've just done a fantastic job keeping the values, the integrity, the class that Coach Donnelly brought to Muhlenberg College. You've taken it, and I got to give you a lot of credit for meeting the challenge head on and continuing what he started and even taking it to greater heights. And I think you deserve a lot of credit for that.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. As I said in my intro press conference a couple years ago now, Coach Donnelly built the foundation for our program. I'd be an idiot if I changed the foundation of what had been really, really successful here at Muhlenberg College. There was a blueprint for our success, and we've just kind of followed that blueprint along. And there's certainly a lot of other people that do it. I appreciate your sentiments there. But we came into this, I wouldn't want it any other way. I have high expectations for our players. We have high expectations for this program. And I'd rather be taking a program over that was 9-1 after one of the best coaches than somebody who had just gotten fired for having terrible football players or something, or scandals. So for us, I couldn't have been happier, and so it's really been a great experience for these last couple of years, and I'm fortunate that I think a lot of people are still connected to Duke, and we've done a lot of things in our program to still be connected to him, and so we feel like that legacy is there for us, and so it's been a lot of fun these last couple of years.